probably 30 of us on the commission, and then a whole lot of researchers. And, certain people stand out. Certain people just naturally lead. Absolutely a driving force in that report, which I still think is going to define what value is in higher education for years to come. And I think, to answer your question, higher education is deeply challenged in a whole host of ways, some of them partisan, some of them rooted in basic economics and the politics of states, some of it in their own culture and structure. But all of those pressures are pointing to the value proposition that we came together with others in this sector to lay out in that Gates report. And so I think it's a very, very difficult time from what I can tell. You guys, you are in the maelstrom. I look from the side, from the outside. But, the pressures are also an opportunity to get to where we all want to go.
So let's talk a little bit about where do we want to go. And of course, I have a vision, and you can share or disagree with me on my vision. I think they all know that my vision is that not only are our students getting this amazing education through our faculty and staff who are really dedicated to our students, they get great support services, but we want every one of our students to have an experience in a career that they dream of, and that by the time they graduate, they have had internships, experiences, et cetera, in the area. And then we help them enter that career or go to graduate school or take a year off. But that we know that every one of our 461,000 students, once they graduate, those 120 crossing or 130,000 crossing that stage, we know where they are going and what they are doing. What do you think about that, and how would you help us to think about that as we go through this?
Well, again, to come back to the work we did together, we began thinking that value was measured in income, which was a good place to start because, let's face it, 90% of college students take the plunge in order to get a decent job and support themselves. But then we bumped into the reality that there were quite great disparities between different kinds of students and different kinds of colleges and different kinds of majors. So we had to factor that in. And then we ran into the fact that the disparities of income pale in comparison to the disparities of wealth. Mm-hmm. So we had to factor that in. And then we wrestled with the fact that as important as economic outcomes are, we don't just educate, we don't sink hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer money into the higher education system just so that people can get jobs. And if you look on the founding documents of just about any college in America, it's going to say, we manufacture citizens, mm-hmm. right? We want our students to become involved, contributing members to society, to their democracy. So you have to factor that in your ROI. So it gets very complicated, but we figured it out. And I'll just say that this is how the Washington Monthly ranks colleges. We have 3 buckets of metrics. One of them is upward mobility, and it's all the factors you were talking about. The second is research. Are universities creating the scholarship and scholars that drive human flourishing and economic growth? And the third is service. Are they giving back to their society by voting, by working in community service, serving in the Peace Corps, becoming teachers, and so forth? I still think that's a pretty good way of looking at it, and that's why we stuck with it for 20 years. But you know, a lot of colleges don't measure up, and the beauty of the CSU, and you hinted at that. CSU does very well in our rankings. I just want to say, in a sense, dominates the rankings, the best bang for the buck rankings, and others. So being here, though I'm a journalist and I'm used to somewhat adversarial conversations, this is not one, because you guys are heroes by our own metrics.
Well, thank you for that.